What is up, everybody? Welcome to the MMA Engine and welcome to the main event deep dive for UFC Long Island. We have Brian Ortega going against Yair Rodriguez. Should be a very fun fight. As always, I am here with everybody's favorite uncle. We got Uncle Weezy. Weezy, what is up? You looking forward to some UFC Long Island?
I am, man. This is an interesting card from top to bottom, but I just watched a bunch of tape on these two guys today, getting ready for this main event deep dive, and it's going to be a great main event. This new Ortega that we've seen, starting at the Chan Sung Jung fight after taking 2 years off after getting pieced up by Max Holloway, has been very good. And even when you watch that ass kicking he took from Volkanovski, he actually looked better against Volkanovski than the last couple people that have fought him. So Yair, such a fun fighter to watch, such incredible striking. So this is a great main event. Can't wait to chop it up with you guys.
Can't wait. As always, guys, we're going to go through the tail of the tape, the pro experience, the UFC experience, the finish stats, the striking stats, the grappling stats, strength of schedule, the current form. We're going to go through everything, talk about it through a betting perspective as well, try to find some spots on this main event, which, by the way, pretty upset. We talked about the main event a little bit last night on Stat Diggers and some spots that stuck out. And then overnight, those spots on FanDuel just got completely smashed. So those lines got they're not there anymore. So we'll talk about those. Maybe some other spots will stick out. Let's shout out the chat before we get started. We do appreciate you guys hanging out with us on a Monday. Just want to give a quick reminder that probability will be tonight, not on Thursday. We're doing it on Monday. And the plan is actually to do it on Monday going forward as well. So we're going to be going live around 9:15, 9:30 p.m. Eastern time after the Die Hard MMA podcast for probability. So make sure you guys do subscribe so you don't miss out on that. We got Philip, first one in the chat. What is up, Philip? We got Lou Betcha, Headley one in the chat. Mushroom. We got Grateful Dude. We have Papa Chuck in the chat as well. Dad's hanging out with us. Brandon. See who else we got in here. We have Victor. What is up, Victor? Yankees fans, appreciate y'all hanging out with us on a Monday. I say we get into it, and we'll start with the tail of the tape. We have Brian Ortega, who is 31 years old, 5'8" with a 69-inch reach, going against Yair Rodriguez, 29 years old, 5'11" with a 71-inch reach. It's Rodriguez, who is 2 years younger, going to have a 3-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage as well. Brian Ortega is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, had a submission win against Cub Swanson, a knockout win against Frankie Edgar, a knockout loss against Max Holloway, took a very long layoff, came back, looked the best he ever had against a Korean Zombie, won that fight by decision, and then lost a decision to the champion, Alexander Volkanovski. No shame in that one. Yair Rodriguez, he is 2-2 and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights, a knockout loss to Frankie Edgar, a knockout win against the Korean Zombie, a no contest against Jeremy Stephens after an eye poke, and then a decision win against Jeremy Stephens, and then a decision loss against Max Holloway. No shame in that. And I did think that Yair made a good account for himself in that fight. So, Weezy, right off the bat, is there anything really sticking out to you on the tail of the tape? Looks like slight advantage, Yair, there.
Okay, so very interesting here that Yair is listed at 5'11", Ortega is listed at 5'8". Just watched the Ortega fight against Chan Sung Jung. He gets interviewed by Daniel Cormier after the fight. So Cormier is standing next to Ortega. Cormier's wearing shoes. Ortega isn't. And Ortega's taller than Daniel Cormier. So you're telling me Daniel Cormier is 5'7"? Is Daniel Cormier 5'6"? I don't think Ortega's 5'8". I think he's probably around 5'11". But we do know that the reach measurements are real, unlike the height measurements. So yeah, 2-inch reach advantage for Yair, and he's also 2 years younger. So that's interesting. Experience numbers are very similar for these guys. Ortega only has one more fight. He has got about 37 more minutes in the pro cage and about 1.5 more years as a pro fighter. Excuse me. Okay, and then we got Yair with one more UFC level fight and about 20 more minutes in the UFC cage. So the experience numbers are pretty much identical for these two guys. And then when we talk about the finish stats, at the UFC level, Brian Ortega's finished 6 of his 7 wins, 3 by knockout, 3 by submission, only 1 win by decision, while Yair Rodriguez has 5 wins by decision and 3 wins by knockout. This is at the UFC level. And overall, Brian Ortega's finished 10 of his 15 pro wins. And for Yair, it's 54% of his 13 wins. So 7 of 13 inside the distance for Yair. Both of these guys have been finished, but they don't lose a lot. 5 combined losses. 3 for Yair, 2 of them inside the distance by knockout, 2 losses for Ortega as a pro, 1 of them inside the distance by knockout. So both of these guys are good finishers, but it's definitely Ortega that's the better finisher at the UFC level.
Yeah, what I noticed about Ortega, his first 8 UFC fights, they all finished inside the distance. And then the last 2, Korean Zombie, that was a decision win that went 5 rounds. And then against Volkanovski, that was a decision loss that went 5 rounds. But prior to that, this guy was either winning inside the distance or he had that loss inside the distance against Max Holloway after that 4th round. So, yeah, both of these guys are fairly dangerous, and I think it's going to make for a good fight. So let's talk about the striking statistics a little bit. And this is an interesting one because if this fight was before the Korean Zombie fight, I would say that Yair has a big striking advantage. I thought the Korean Zombie was going to have like a massive striking advantage. I had a bet on Zombie in that fight, which looked horrible, but I thought, Zombie would be able to stuff the takedowns, keep it on the feet, and kind of do what Max Holloway did, just piece up Brian Ortega, potentially finish him or just win a 5-round decision. But it was actually Ortega that was winning a lot of the striking exchanges for the most part, had some big moments as well, hurt the Korean Zombie. So from that Max Holloway fight to the Korean Zombie fight, there was like a 2 or 3 year layoff. It was a long layoff. He came back, and that's the best version of Brian Ortega we've ever seen in terms of the striking. Obviously, the striking looked okay against Volkanovski. It's hard to look good against Volkanovski. But yeah, that striking, I think, took a big leap from the Max Holloway fight to the Zombie fight. So I'm curious to see your thoughts on the striking here, Weezy, because the numbers are probably going to tell a different story because the numbers on Ortega are ugly.
Yeah, they're very ugly on the aggregate, and that's a result of Ortega really largely being a moment winner as a UFC fighter. Even prior to these fights where he got his title shot, where he got his first 5-round fights, he was losing to guys that you would expect that he would not be losing to. He was losing to Clay Guida. He was losing to Cub Swanson. He was losing some of these fights and then came back and won them because he was able to win moments. And it shows in the cumulative statistics for Brian, as he's only landing 4.15 significant strikes per minute, but he's absorbing 6.69. So that's really troublesome. Or less than 50% striking defense on the aggregate is troublesome. Only 38% striking accuracy on the aggregate is troublesome, but he does have 5 knockdowns in 10 fights. So he is somebody that can win moments. But we saw him take those 2 years off after really getting beaten up by Max Holloway, getting stopped at the end of the 4th round there. He took 2 years off, came back, and then the striking looked much improved. We saw a completely different Brian Ortega, one with a shaved head. He looked like he was a Hare Krishna, for Christ's sake. It was weird seeing him like that. And then it was weird seeing him be so measured and so calm in the striking exchanges, maintaining distance very well. Everything that he was landing was hurting. And in the 2nd round, I saw the Zombie kind of come back and start to land some nice shots. And then he got caught with that spinning elbow. And then Ortega just took over for the rest of the fight. So, I'm seeing a big improvement in Brian Ortega's striking. However, Yair over the entirety of his UFC career has been a dominant striker at this level, landing 4.65 significant strikes a minute, only absorbing 4.1, throwing 1.5 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents, 45% striking accuracy, 3 knockdowns in 11 fights. Does a fantastic job maintaining distance with kicks. So it's very hard to close the distance on Yair Rodriguez because he's so effective with his kicks. If you try to march in to close it into boxing range, that's when he starts catching you. And he's very versatile too. There are so many different kinds of attacks, and he's constantly switching stances that it's going to be difficult for Brian Ortega to close the distance here. He is at a 2-inch reach disadvantage. He's theoretically at a 3-inch height disadvantage, even though like I say, on fight day, I anticipate these guys being the same height. But the striking, I've still got to lean Yair Rodriguez here. Brian Ortega's made some big leaps, but Brian is a grappler first. A striker. The striking has come along, but he still is a grappler first. So I got to give Yair the advantage on the feet.
Yep, exactly. Although Ortega has made improvements, I would still favor Yair on the feet as well in terms of the minute winning. But Ortega hits very, very hard. I think he can definitely win some moments there, and I think Yair can win some moments as well. Ortega has a very good chin, but he's very hittable. I think on the feet, it's fairly close, but yeah, I'm with you. I do favor Yair Rodriguez in terms of going out there and winning the minutes. Let's bring up some comments here. Saw some ones I wanted to touch on. Papa Chuck saying, Uncle Weezy, what's the measurement on Yair's neck? Looks perfect for the size of it. Do you have the measurements of Yair's neck there?
I do not have it, but I'll tell you something, man. Whatever the size of your neck, Brian Ortega finds a way to get his arm to fit perfectly around it. Whether it's a guillotine or whether it's his legs in the triangle, you don't want to give that neck to Brian Ortega ever.
And then Headley One also brings up something that we talk about often. Zombie looked bad, but I would discount how good Ortega looked in that fight. It was Fight Island, so stuff was weird. That was Fight Island, right?
It was definitely Fight Island. However, I thought he won the first round against Volk Ortega. You know, that was a very close first round, but I thought Ortega actually landed the better shots in the first round against Volk. So, yeah, but the Fight Island thing is weird because, like I say, sometimes it's those Russian guys that get screwed the worst because they're not changing time zones, but they're fighting at 4 o'clock in the morning, Fight Island time, Russia time. So it's messed up for everybody there. You know, Ortega might not have even been at his best either, but it was still a great performance.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about these grappling stats a little bit, Wheezy. And there's some interesting things to note with these grappling stats, but I'm sure everybody knows it. Ortega's ground game is just next level. Went back and watched the Volk fight. I was there live, and I had like a 10 fighter parlay, and it ended with Volkanovski. And then I also had a bet on Volkanovski by decision. So I needed him to win and win by decision. And Ortega had him in some deep submission attempts. I think it was that third round, and I am not sure how Ortega was not able to finish or how Volkanovski got out of that. But this guy is extremely dangerous on the mat. He could be on the mat for 20 seconds or less and lock something up. This guy's insane. So let's talk about these grappling stats, Wheezy. I'm sure Ortega's going to want to get this fight down to the mat, and if he does, he's going to have a ton of success.
Yeah, and once again, these stats aren't telling the whole story because we've seen Ortega grow up. You know, we've seen him go from kind of like a moment-winning, explosive fighter to a complete mixed martial artist. And, you know, for Ortega, for when we see somebody that's as good of a grappler as Ortega, these numbers would be a huge red flag for me. 6.27% control time for Ortega, 10% control time allowed. So only 1/6 of his fights are taking place in control time positions for or against. And we saw that on the aggregate, he's landing 4.15 significant strikes a minute and absorbing 6.7. So he's not winning minutes on the feet. And he's not winning minutes on the ground either. Yair also is giving up too much control time. He's allowing 26% control time on the aggregate. So more than 1 out of every 4 seconds, Yair's being controlled by his opponents. We even saw Max Holloway, who doesn't grapple at all, you know, rack up a good amount of control time against Yair Rodriguez. Neither one of these guys showing much in the way of takedown defense. 56% for Brian Ortega, but people aren't really trying to take him down. And Yair Rodriguez, 60% takedown defense, and that's on 38 attempts against in 11 fights. So, you know, if there's a guy that we're obviously thinking will be the one to win minutes on the ground here, it's Brian Ortega. But let's look. Can we go to the advanced stats here for a sec, Brady? I want to show these guys something.
Sir.
If we look at Brian Ortega's last 3 fights, right, against Volk, against Chan Sung Jung, and against Max Holloway, in these 3 fights, he's totaled 26 takedown attempts. Now, Brian Ortega in the UFC only has 33 takedown attempts, period, over the whole sample size. So 26 of those takedown attempts out of the 33 took place in the last 3 fights. So we have seen Ortega from his first 7 fights, he's never had more than 3 takedown attempts in any fight and never more than 103 seconds of control time in any fight. Now he's had 7 takedowns in the last 3 fights on 26 attempts, which isn't great. You know, it's less than 30%, but still he's getting the fight to the ground. And he's getting a little over 10% control time, about 250 seconds of control time in 4,200 seconds. So that's not even 10%. Look, he's not winning minutes on the ground, but he is starting to wrestle more. But the thing about the wrestling is he's not completely committing to the takedowns. He's using the takedowns actually to set up his striking, not the other way around. I think we will see Brian go to the wrestling more in this fight because Yair has allowed 26% control time over 11 fights, and he's only stopping takedowns at a 60% clip. But we can't count on Brian Ortega to do what Kennedy and Chekwu did, on Saturday, which is all of a sudden just become a wrestler, a position over submission grappler. He's not Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's really more of a guy that just locks you up in a guillotine when he catches you slipping. So as much as I'd like to be able to tell the Ortega backers here that you can count on this dude to wrestle and win minutes there, I don't think that that's necessarily the case. I don't think you can count on him to win minutes with the wrestling. I do think if it goes to the grappling at all, whether it's Brian or Yair that's initiating it, that's when Brian's going to be at his most comfortable and his most dangerous. But we can't count on Brian to initiate it and start with the submission attempts from the takedowns. We just haven't seen it.
Yeah, and I don't think he's going to win minutes on the mat as well, but I think that's very it's a good sign that 26 takedown attempts in his last 3 fights, and you take a look at who he's fighting. Max Holloway, very good takedown defense and get up game 84%. Very good takedown defense there. The Korean Zombie, very good takedown defense and get up game 72%. And then Alexander Volkanovski, of course, a 73% takedown defense and a very good get-up game as well. Those are tough guys to take down and hold down, whereas Yair Rodriguez, not the best takedown defense in the world, 60%. Jeremy Stevens got him down 3 times. Charles Rosa got him down 5 times back in the day. Fielding got him down. Hooker got him down. Caceres got him down. Edgar got him down. So he definitely can be taken down. Max Holloway got him down 3 times in the last fight. If Ortega does get him down, I'm with you. I don't see Ortega going out there and just winning minutes, laying on top of Rodriguez, being position over submission. That's not his game. If he gets the fight down to the mat, he's going to be going for submissions instantly. Might even give up positions if he does not get it as well. So I'm with you on the feet. I feel like the minute winner is going to be Yair. And then on the mat, I don't feel like Ortega is going to win minutes, but I do feel like Ortega can win moments on the feet. And I feel like Ortega can absolutely win moments on the mat. And I think that's what makes this fight so intriguing.
Yeah, because both of these guys are such explosive fighters. Yair with those wild kicks, that incredible up elbow that he caught the Korean Zombie with at literally second number 1,499 out of 1,500. And the toughness, that war that he was in with Jeremy Stevens, that war that he was in with Max Holloway, that war that he was in with the Korean Zombie. These are fights that we know that there's no quit in either one of these guys. They're both complete and total warriors here. But it's just weird because you think of Ortega as this fantastic submission grappler, but we're starting to see the signs that he is putting together the wrestling. As a matter of fact, I think it was during the Chan Sung Jung fight, they were saying that Ortega said, "I used to hate wrestling. Now I realize it's an important part of what I do." And to think that you would hear Brian Ortega say, "I hate wrestling," you'd be like, "Well, then I hate betting on you," because you're getting, you're blocking punches with your face and you're at your most dangerous when you're attempting submissions. So we're starting to see Ortega start to fight the right type of game plan where he can be dangerous more of the fight. And we're starting to see that with the takedown attempts starting to pile up. And if he actually starts going to that wrestling a little bit earlier in the rounds, because I noticed that he's kind of going to the wrestling in the last minute of the round to win a close round. I think he should be going to it in the first minute of the round, because then he could finish fights that way, because he's going to finish fights with submissions at this level. So it's a fascinating matchup because these are two fascinating fighters.
Yeah, and Papa Chuck brings up a good point. I have a feeling that Ortega has been picking up some wrestling tips from Mrs. Cortez. Yeah, now I think he does like some wrestling there, right?
Yeah, he does. And, I mean, people talk a lot of shit about Tracy Cortez. Look, Tracy Cortez has been in a wrestling room with the Cejudo brothers since she was 12 years old. Tracy Cortez is one of the best female wrestlers in the entire UFC. So the fact that, Brian is with her, that they're a couple, it has got to be helping.
Yes.
And it's got to be doing something for his understanding of how important wrestling is to having a complete mixed martial arts game, not just defensive wrestling, not just stopping takedowns, but also initiating those grappling exchanges and being able to win minutes on the ground. If Brian Ortega ever picks up that part of his mixed martial arts game and taking a serious interest in it, he's going to be a fucking problem for everybody, including Alexander Volkanovski.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the strength of schedule a little bit. I mean, you take a look at these guys' losses. Brian Ortega has 2 losses in the UFC. Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway, the 2 best guys in the division. Yair Rodriguez, a loss against Max Holloway, and then a loss against Frankie Edgar. So both guys are losing to very good fighters. And then you take a look at Yair Rodriguez wins against the Korean Zombie, that last second, elbow, a win against Jeremy Stevens, BJ Penn, Caceres, Philly, Hooker, Rosa. And then you have Ortega with, decent wins. Win against Korean Zombie is a great win against Frankie Edgar, great win. Cub Swanson, Renato Moicano, Clay Guida, so very good wins there for Ortega as well. So yeah, both guys fighting some really good competition there, Weezy.
Excellent competition. And when we just look at it according to the numbers, the better ratio in all 3 areas goes to Ortega. But Ortega's it's actually Rodriguez who's fighting the more experienced competition on the aggregate, but there's a big enough difference in the ratio there that I would give the advantage here to Ortega overall. I would definitely give the advantage to Ortega on the wins in the strength of schedule, as his ratio is 0.5 better than Yair, and he's also fighting the more experienced competition. And the losses are, like you said, I mean, you're either losing to Holloway and Volk, or you're losing to Holloway and Edgar. So the loss is just a little bit better for Ortega there too. But yeah, just on the aggregate, I'm giving it to Ortega, just because he has fought Volkanovski and Yair Rodriguez hasn't.
Yep, right there with you. So what we'll do now, guys, is we went through the tail of the tape, the experience, the strike, and the grappling, the strength of schedule. Let's talk about the betting odds a little bit. If you guys are in the chat right now, let me know who you are picking in this fight, and let me know your favorite bet as well. We'll be talking about all these props here shortly. So let's start with the money line. We have Brian Ortega opening up -150. He went all the way down to -170. He is back up to -155. Yair Rodriguez opening up +130. Went to +145 and is currently at +135. Let's start there at the money line. What are your thoughts on this money line here?
So, I one thing we didn't mention was just the common opponent is Frankie Edgar, and Yair got knocked out by Frankie, and Ortega knocked out Frankie Edgar. So a little bit of an edge there in terms of the common opponent. I like the strength of schedule for Ortega. I like the grappling for Ortega, and I like the fact that he's starting to commit to the grappling a little bit more. But with Yair, we've got the nice little size and reach advantage, and we've got the striking advantage, and the experience numbers are very similar for both of them. So just if I'm looking at the numbers, I'm kind of leaning Yair, but I think Brian has made enough improvements to his striking game for me to feel like Brian's striking is better than Yair's grappling, and if Brian's weak spot is the striking and Yair's weak spot is the grappling, I think Yair's weak spot is more of a hole in this particular matchup than Brian's is. So I think that this line is fair. -155 is actually available right now on Brian Ortega at Bet Online, and the best that we can do on Yair is +140. DraftKings, BetMGM, Bet365. I think if I'm making a bet here on the money line, I'm going with Ortega at -155.
Yep, I would go there as well. And yeah, I think it's a good spot for Ortega. Yeah, I was at -150 earlier in the day as well. So yeah, that kind of sticks out to me. Let's take a look at the chat, see what the chat's saying here. General saying press the like button, I agree. Das saying press the like button, I agree. Lou Betcha. Ortega sub round 4 +2,700, sub round 5 +3,500. The Lou bets, I like it. And then he's also giving out the fight to not end in a draw -215,000. There you go. You heard it here first. The fight to not end in a draw, maybe a parlay piece there. Cole saying a leaning Ortega money line by Yair, a decision, or Ortega by sub is juicy. I will talk about those props for sure. Brandon saying the Ortega sub for 345 plus 850. Goodness. That's probably on FanDuel, right? I think that's very juicy there. And then Jessica saying Jung versus Jacoby under 2.5 rounds. Not this fight, but I don't know. I'm kind of leaning over there, Jessica. Any thoughts on that?
I'm kind of leaning over on the Jung Jacoby. Now, we will be talking about the Jung Jacoby under 2.5 on probability here, right here on the MMA Engine YouTube channel after the Die Hard MMA podcast. So, Jessica, stay tuned for that, and we will be breaking down that fight on all the time props. Fight goes, fight doesn't go, over under 2.5, over under 1.5. We'll take a look at all that data and see how it lines up with the lines that are available. But yeah, man, in terms of the Ortega late round submission props, they're juicy. And we saw him almost get it against Volkanovski. And Volkanovski has gills, so I don't think Yair Rodriguez actually has gills. If he winds up in that triangle or in that mounted guillotine, I think he's sleeping.
If anybody else in the division, anybody else did, I mean, it's over. Like, Ortega is legit on the mat. Like, he submitted black belts. Like, Moicano's a black belt. I believe Swanson's a black belt. His ground game is just next level here. So let's take a look at the props. I'm very upset. I'm very upset. I don't think I've ever seen lines move this much overnight, but they just got completely smashed on FanDuel. So the fight doesn't get the decision, opened up minus 110 on FanDuel, and it's currently minus 148. That got smashed. The best price out there looks to be minus 148 on FanDuel. On BetOnline, that is minus 160. The fight goes to decision is plus 112. We'll be talking about this in more detail on probability, Weezy, but just quick thoughts on the fight goes or doesn't go. The minus 110 is no longer there, so I don't think I'll be touching it at minus 148.
So, yeah, I mean, I think if we're looking at 5-round fights in the 140-pound division, Brady, I think I got it right here. Dude, they're only finishing 57% of the time. So at minus 150, you're actually paying a 60% implied probability. You are overpaying there just a little bit. And let's not forget, Yair went the full 5 with Max. Yair almost went the full 5 with the Korean Zombie. I mean, come on, that one went 1,499 seconds. Fourth round stoppage after doctor stoppage for Ortega in a 5-round fight, and then he went the full 5 with Volk. So at minus 110, that's a good play. At minus 150, nah, I could see it cashing, obviously, but that's just it's not. There's no value. I don't have to run to the window to pay minus 148 when it was just available at minus 110 a few hours ago. That's a big move.
And even at
minus 110 to minus 125, okay, maybe if I still like it, I'm paying. But when you jack it up to minus 150, they're like, whoa. There must have been a lot of money that came in at minus 110.
Yeah, and even like minus 110, I wasn't like, oh, I have to bet this. I absolutely have to bet this. So, that one hurt a little bit. That was one thing I was looking at, but I'm not touching it at minus 148. So, unfortunate there. I guess the biggest thing that hurts Weezy was this Ortega submission prop. So, we talked about it last night on Stat Diggers. For some reason, Ortega by submission plus 470. Did not pull the trigger. Wake up this morning, and it's plus 280. It got completely smashed. Everybody bet it, but was not able to get there. So Ortega by submission plus 280. I mean, I'm pretty upset about missing that plus 470 pretty much.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because how much money came in on it at plus 460 that they didn't move it to plus 420. They didn't move it to plus 400, not plus 370. No, they were just like, you know what? Fuck it. Make it worse than BetOnline's ass props, because BetOnline will always give you the most stench props that they possibly can. And BetOnline, what do they got for Ortega by submission? Plus 300. So FanDuel said, put it below that number. We don't want any more action on Ortega by submission. And I think some intern got fired.
It stinks. It stinks. Oh, man. Would have loved to have that one back. Let's take a look here. Rodriguez by decision was plus 420 last night, currently plus 380. What else was there? Oh, this hurts as well. So The finish only or the scorecards equals no action on FanDuel Sportsbook last night was around minus 128, and I loved it there. I was probably going to end up playing that. Guess what it is now?
Oh God, I got it in front of me. I can look, but what, minus 160?
Minus 180. So that got smashed as well.
And that's for Ortega, right?
That's for Ortega, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good look. I mean, I'm showing minus 155 though right now for scorecards, no action on Ortega.
That's decent.
On Bet Online.
I like that. I like that minus 155. It was minus 150. I don't mind that.
Yeah, because that's not bad because the money line is minus 155.
Yeah.
So if you really think that he's the more likely guy to stop this fight because of that submission acumen that he has, that's not a bad look. But man, minus 120, that would have been nice, dude. That's, you got to be ready to snipe these lines right when they come out, man, because the sharks are in the pool.
Yeah, I thought I had time to wait for. I want to wait for the show and talk about with you more because usually FanDuel is just really slow with moving the lines. But I wake up and I'm like, what just happened? What just happened to these lines? They got smashed. So yeah, people were all over and they were forced to move those lines quickly there. So let's talk about some long shot props here. I know Lou Betches on that the 3-4 sub. Ortega round 5 sub is plus 3,300. Ortega round 4 sub is plus 27. These are juicy. Ortega round 3 sub plus 1,700. Ortega round 2 sub plus 1,200. These are some juicy props here. So I guess what is your favorite prop that's sticking out? I think for me, I guess it's that scorecards equals no action for Ortega or the Ortega submission prop, but plus 300, but I would have liked it much better, the plus 470.
Yeah, that would have been, 470 would have been such a no-brainer bet. You could put a quarter unit on it to win more than one. And, it's probably his best path because, look, if Ortega fights this fight really smart, he's going to be grappling a lot. Even a lot for Brian Ortega. And we've seen everybody take down Yair and have a little bit of success there. So why not Ortega? I think the sub prop, we've got to just wait for the other books to open them. And, I think eventually FanDuel will jack it up above plus 300 again, and it might be worth looking into there.
Yep, I think so as well. Before we give our final prediction and our best bet on the fight, real quickly, Lou says, before you guys sign off, can we get your favorite yam bag spot on the card? The Whisper has been off his game lately. Any yam bag spots sticking out?
Oh, let's see here. Maybe Schnell Maderji, because Maderji's tall and long. Grant Stoltzfus, because those guys are weird. And I also want to note, I've told Lou Beccia this a number of times, but he wants my analytics out of his yam bag shots, Brady. But you want good yam bag lines here. You look for the striker versus orthodox matchups because those inside leg kicks a lot of times will graze the sack, and that's where you get those point deductions. And you also look for dudes with big hands and long fingers like Kennedy and Chekwu. First strike of the bout, right in the sack. But we just didn't. Then there was too much wrestling, and we didn't get any fence grabs. But I think Grant Stoltzfus could be a good one. I think Jacoby Jung potentially, but Jacoby's a very precise kickboxer. And then I'm going to say Schnell Maderji has a chance at it too.
Lou says keep your data out of his bags.
Yeah.
Yeah. My pick would be the Jung fight, if anything. Not a ton of VM bags really stick out, but you never know. Anything can happen. All right, Weezy, we're about 34 minutes in here. I guess last thing we'll have to do is just give your final prediction on the fight and then give your best bet.
So I'm going to go with Brian Ortega to win this fight. I think he's going to win it by decision here. I think he's going to be able to do it with his grappling, by mixing in the grappling, by using the grappling to set up striking, which he was doing really good in his last two fights, particularly against Chan Sung Jung. And I think that both of these guys are incredibly tough, incredibly durable. And Brian is an opportunistic submission grappler, but I don't really see him like getting takedowns, passing guard, working for an arm triangle. I don't really see him being that type of a guy. So I think he's going to win by decision. by keeping the striking exchanges close and winning minutes up against the cage and on the ground with his grappling.
So what would your favorite bet be? Would it be just the Ortega money line minus 155?
Yes, because I don't want to pick him by decision or by submission or knockout, simply because he's so dangerous everywhere. 3 wins by knockout, 3 wins by submission. He's also won by decision once, but Yair Rodriguez is very durable. So I think decision is the best angle, but I'd rather just take that money line because it's not too juiced here at minus 155.
Yep, sounds good. For me, I am going with Ortega as well. I think he finishes this fight out. If I had to pick a round, I feel like it could be in any round. I guess I'll say like second or third round, mid-fight, somewhere around there, but it could be in any round here. I think if this fight hits the mat at any point, he's going to be very, very live for that submission. For my best bet, there's 2 I like. I like the Ortega money line. I think you can have some big moments on the feet here, and I think you can have some moments on the mat as well. If not finishing the fight on whether it's a club and sub or on the mat. So I like the money line minus 155, and then I like that scorecards equals no action. I like it a lot more at minus 128 on FanDuel, but still minus 155. I don't hate that. It's just really hard. I mean, I guess Yair can knock him out, but Ortega is just next level tough. So I like that scorecards equals no action. I like the Ortega money line. And I'm going to wait for DraftKings to see where they put out some of these props, but would have liked the submission prop at plus 470. Don't like it as much as plus 280, plus 300. So yeah, give me Ortega as well. Looks like we're both on Ortega here.
Yeah, I don't know who said it in the chat last night when they mentioned the Ortega sub prop at plus 470, but I was like, man, if I wasn't doing a show right now, I'd be like betting that, and I guess everybody else who was like, hey, I'm not doing a show right now. These guys are, so I'll bet it. And that's what happened. And now we're probably not going to sniff that price for the rest of this week.
Yeah, we won't sniff it at all, sadly, but we did it, Weezy. Guys, we'll be back here at 9:15 p.m. Eastern time after the Die Hard MMA podcast for Propability. We're going to be going through all 12 fights from a data-driven perspective on some of these props. And at the end, we will give out a Propability parlay, which did hit last week. So looking forward to that. Weezy, let the people know where they can find you, what you have going on throughout the week.
Yeah, so right here on the MMA Engine channel for Propability, for the main event deep dive, for the occasional balls deep breakdown. You can find me on my channel, Uncle Weezy, every Tuesday night, 10 o'clock Central Time for Just the Tip, where we break down the entire card, finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. And you can find me on Pub Sports Radio every Sunday for Stat Diggers, every Wednesday for the DFS show, and every Saturday for the watch along with Boston Nick and the boys. But I am going to be going out of town this week. So I think I'm going to be doing Just the Tip at the usual time, but I'll be in Michigan at my girlfriend's mom's house, probably working with a hotspot there. And if that all works well, we'll be doing it at the normal time. But yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. Check us out a little bit later on the night for Propability, and let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Long Island.
Sounds good. You can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers. My full card breakdown will be out tomorrow. We got on Wednesday, the DFS show, and Friday, final thoughts video right here on the MMA Engine. And then Saturday, going to be getting out best bet as well. So that's about it, guys. Leave a like on your way out, subscribe, and we'll talk to you tonight. See you guys later, and best of luck.